So, hi everyone. Am I audible? Hello. If I'm audible, please type in the chat box to confirm. Anyone? Am I audible? Hello. Hello. Oh, great. Thanks. So let's wait for a few more minutes and then we'll start whenever some more of the more students join. Fine. Hi everyone. I hope my screen is visible and I'm audible to you guys. Please confirm by typing in the chat box. Great. So is my screen visible? Great. Thanks. So let's start today's session. So welcome to a tutorial session on the joy of programming using Python. My name is Rupesh Kumar, and today is 20th September 2024. These sessions are held every Friday, 6 to 8 p.m. So I have some basic questions for you guys from the topics that were covered during this week, and then I have few programming questions, and finally I will take some practice problems from you guys. Fine. So if you face any difficulties, please type in the chat box. I hope the text is visible. Anyone, please confirm. And so let's start the first question. So what is stylometry? Can anyone answer this? So what is stylometry? The options are the study of language evolution, the study of linguistic style in written text, The study of speech patterns in public speaking, the study of language acquisition in children. Anyone? So someone is answering, it is the study of linguistic style in written. That's truth. So by linguistic style means we mean the way of writing anything in a certain language. So stylometry is basically trying to understand how a person writes writes in some language. So option B is correct. Let's move on to question number two. So what are the different attributes that can be checked in addition to average length to identify the style of a particular author? So it is a multiples correct type question. So be careful. So the question is, what are the different attributes that can be checked in addition to average word length to identify to the style of a particular author? Fine. So so basically, if you want to identify, like let's say there's the author A, then author B, and you want to identify from the text that they have written that whether this has been written by from author A or author B, what you can do. The most basic thing is simply count the average word length. So this will do help us to identify some of the authors will write use shorter words, others will use longer words. Then what are other ways to identify this? So option A, punctuation usage. So yeah, this is definitely correct. Then word frequency. Yeah, some authors prefer using some words repeatedly. So the word frequency is also good. Then usage of stylistic devices like metaphors and similes. These things are really personal to all and depends on the author to author. So they are really important. And then finally, average sentence. Then this is also important. Fine. So all the options are correct. Anyone, do you have any doubts in this? Please type in the chat box. Let's move on to the next question. So I guess no one has any doubt. So the following code tries to perform natural language analysis for a small piece of text without using the NLTK. That is Natural Language Toolkit library in Python. So how does it do? So let's see the problem. It says selects all the correct statements related to this program. So before answering this problem, let's try to understand what the text program is trying to do. Fine. So in the first line, what we are doing, we are defining a string text that contains the following sentence: natural language processing using Python. In the second statement, we are using words equals to text dot split. So let's look at the Python documentation for the behavior. If you really want to learn some language, you should be able to understand. You should basically get habitual with studying, trying to identify function behavior, all the attributes using from documentation. Let's search for split. String dot split. So let's see what it does. So what it does is it returns a list of words in the string using separator as a delimiter string. There are no limit of number of splits if separator consecutive. So fine. So when you look at this behavior of the split function, if you if you do not pass any separator to the split function, it finds the consecutive white spaces and remove them as the separator. Fine. So in this line, when you look at the line number 2, it says words equals to text dot split. It basically identifies space gap as the separator, and then it divides the text into words using that information. And then, yeah, the link will be shared. Then what we are doing, we are creating a list X that contains the value of each element of the list X contains the entries, length of the text, length of the list word. So words is a list. So length of word for word in words. So basically for word in words, for each word in the list words, what we are doing, we are computing their length of each of the words and storing in the list X. Then y is initialized as the sum of X. So basically sum of all the entries in the list X. That means sum of all the word lengths in the in the list words. Fine. So basically it's the total number of letters in the character text, in the string text. Then z is equals to y divided by length of X. So basically this is average word length. Z is y divided by length of total number of words. So this is average word length. Fine. And finally, we are printing average word total number of word length in the list, and then in the text, and then average word length. So let's see what the outputs are correct. So y represents the sum of length of words in the text. So that is true. Z represents the average word length of the text. That is also true. X represents a list where each index of the list corresponds to the length of the corresponding word in the text. So that is also true. Fine. So yeah, that is true, as we already saw. Then it is saying the output of the following code is 36, comma 36 space 7.2. So let us see. So what is the total number of words we have here? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 words we have. And so length of X is basically 5. Then what is Y? Y is sum of X. X is length of a word. So basically, what you when you add up the words, and so let's write a program for this and let's see the that would be much more easy. So I'm opening my Spider IDE. Oh, sorry. I guess my mic was disabled. So yeah, let me reiterate this problem. So what we did is we created text variable text that contains the text provided in the problem. Then we created the words array that contains each of the words present in the list text in the string text. So we can see what it does. It basically divides this divides the string into its corresponding words and returns a list of those words. Then in X, we are storing the length of each of the words present in the variable words in the list of words. And then Y is basically sum of X, and Z is average value of the length of words. And when you run the program, you will see you will get Y equals to 36 and Z is 7 point. So all the options are correct for this problem. Anyone? Do you have any questions? Do you face any difficulties in solving this problem? So lenx basically len is a function in Python which takes a list or a string and returns the total number of elements present in that list or a string. So basically len x, when you type in len x, it will return the total number of values present in the list x. So in the list x, you can see there are 5 values. So it is printing 5. Anyone else? Any doubts? I guess none of you have any doubts. So let's move further. So the following code tries to calculate the average sentence length of a given block of text. So we want to compute average sentence length of a given block of text in the form of a file. Fine. So the input text is given in form of a file. Assuming that the sentences always end with full stops and that there are no ellipses, basically 3 dots in the block of text, but the code might contain uh, some errors. Identify the line number in which there is some error or return -1. So no any error. Fine. So let's see what is the bug in this program. So we are basically asking the user to input the file name in which the text is present. So everyone, is the problem statement clear visible to you guys? So I hope the text is visible. Otherwise, I will have to write it. Okay. No one is responding. So oh, great. Thanks. So in the first line, what we are doing, we are inputting asking the user for input file name, input string using the input function, and we are storing the input file name into the variable name file name. Then we are opening the file name within the reading mode. So we are using with open file name comma read. R stands for read mode here as file. and then text equals to file dot read. So basically we are reading and the contents present in the file text file that has been opened. Then we are saying number of words equals to length of sentence dot strip into split for sentence in text dot split dot if sentence dot strip. Fine. So let's see what does sentence dot strip does. Fine. Let's see what does sentence dot strip does. So let's say we have a text which is blank, then let's call t dot strip. So it returns nothing. If so when we call t dot strip, it says print yes. You can see it is not printing anything. So basically, if t is a blank list, blank string, so the strip function, what it does is it removes any trailing or in all training or both trailing and the leading characters. So basically, it removes the trailing and leading space, blank spaces from this statement, from the input sentence. If the sentence is blank statement, then it returns nothing. So it's a blank string. And if that is the case, then this if condition does not get executed, so it is false. So the number of the program proceeds to the next line in the text, next word in the text. So let's see what we are doing. We are storing number of words equals to length of sentence dot split. So basically, a strip basically remove of the leading and trailing character space, and then split it basically into words for each sentence in text dot split dot. So the text file contains multiple sentences separated by the dot sign. So basically, the full stop sign that we use in English language. If the sentence dot strip is true. If sentence dot strip is true means if the sentence contains any text. Fine. So essentially what we are doing, we are counting the number of words for each sentence per sentence, and we are iterating through sentence line by line in the file, text file, in the content stored in a text file. Fine. Now in line number five, it is saying average length equals to sum number of words divided by length of text. So we are basically adding all the values present in the sentence in the list number of words and then divided by length of text. And then we are saying print average sentence length is average sentence. So what it's saying. So anyone, can you identify the issue? Hello. Can anyone identify the problem in this code? Anyone? So we are trying to find the average sentence length from the text file. So let me give you a hint. There are no syntax errors. So there is something related to logic. There is a logical error in this problem. So can anyone identify that error? So we are trying to find the average sentence length in the text file. So that means out how many So let's say if there are 100 sentences, what is the average length of each sentence in the file? So that would be theoretically total sentences divided by, sum of the length of each of the sentences, that is equals to sum of all the letters in the file divided by total number of sentences in the file. So now can anyone identify the issue in the bug in this program? So please type in the chat box. So just a hint, there is an issue in this program. So please pay attention. For counting the average number of sentences, what you have to do, you have to divide the total number of letters present in the list in the text file divided by total number of sentences in the file. So from there, can you identify the issue? So let's say I have a text file some like that looks like this. So let's say I have some file, mm, something. uh, Python is a programming language, whereas HTML is not a programming is as it not a programming language as it does not allow logic to be implemented. Python is a very powerful scripting language. Fine. So yeah. So here, how many words we have? How many letters we have? So let's say approximately. Let's say there are total 100 letters. And how many sentences? There are two sentences. So what is the average sentence length? It is 100 divided by 2, which is 50. Fine. So the same case goes for this program also. So yeah, it is right. Someone is saying it should be length of text divided by length of sentence. So what is sentence here basically? So your logic is staying correct, but instead of length of text, we have to create a list of sentences and then we can divide it by the length of sentences. So that would be correct. So line number 5 is incorrect. Fine, great. So anyone, do you have any doubts in this problem? So no one is answering. So I believe no one has any doubt. So let's move on to the next question. So what does the following code do? So all of you are familiar with the network X Python. Everyone? So network is a graph library in Python that can be used to build network of graphs. Fine. So this is the basic syntax. Import networks as x as nx, and graph we are declaring a graph G equals to nx dot graph. So let's see the problems line of code. So we are importing the network access library and using the alias nx to access all its functions and objects. Then we are importing the random function library, random library. Then we are creating a graph G equals to nx dot graph. And then we are running a for loop. For node is in range 1 to 6. G dot add node. So we are adding total 6 nodes in the graph G. Everyone, add node function is used to add a set of nodes. It takes an integer value and so it stores the node number into the graph. Then what we are doing, we are running a while loop. When we are running while loop until length of graph, total number of edges, length of total number of edges in the graph G is not equals to 10. What we have to do, we have to create two random values, node 1 and node 2. So here we are using random dot sample function to sample some values from a given input list. The list is range 1 to 6, so it contains integers from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we are sampling two values from this list randomly, and then we are getting those two random integers and storing them to the two variables node 1 and node 2. Then we are adding that edge G dot using the function graph dot add edge. So we have graph G, so G dot add edge, and passing the endpoints of the edge that has been chosen randomly between 1 to 6, 1 to 5. And until and unless the graph has 10 edges, we have to do this. When the graph has total number of 10 edges, then the loop will break. And then we have to print the total number of nodes in the graph and print the total number of edges in the graph. Fine. Everyone, are you able to understand this problem? Mhm. Please type in the chat box. So let's see which of the options are correct. The question is, what does this program do? Let's see the options. It creates a graph having 5 nodes, which are integers from 1 to 5, and 10 edges in total created, and the edges and the no, and the edges and nodes of the graphs are printed. So this is correct. So option A is correct. Then second option says the graph having 6 nodes, which is incorrect. Let's see. Hmm. We are adding 5 nodes only. We are not adding 6 nodes because this for loop runs from 1 to 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then a graph having 5 nodes, which are integers from 1 to 5 and 9 edges. So no, we can see we are adding total 10 edges starting from 0. So yeah, 0 to 9. So total 10 edges. So this is also incorrect. And option D, a graph having 6 nodes, which is also incorrect. So correct answer is option A. Anyone, do you have any doubts in this program? We are printing 9 edges. Why you are printing 9 edges? Can you tell me? It says not equals to 10. So let's debug this. So do you know what is the initial length of total number of edges present in the graph G when we have not added any graph edges in the graph? 0. Fine. So now in the first iteration in the while loop, what it will happen? It will add the first edge and then length will be 1. Fine. Then in the second iteration, length will be 2, in the third 3, in the fourth 4. So are you looking at the behavior? So when you enter into the loop, the value, so let's say if you are adding nth edge, then the condition that was checked, if in order to enter this loop, was if n minus 1 is not equals to 10. So let's say when you are adding the 10th edge, what would be the value of total number of edges in the existing graph? It will be. So are you getting what I'm saying? Hello? It will, when you are let's say at a stage you have graph G, it has 9 edges. Fine. So now we are checking while 9 is not equals to 10. Fine. This is true. Then what happens? We add edge. So total edges become 10. Then the loop does not work. Then again, when the loop checks while 10 not equals to 10, so this fails. This check fails. And then you are left with 10 edges in the graph. Is it clear? So understand it like this. Adding the for adding nth edge, you are checking for n minus 1th stage in the stage in which the graph has n minus 1 edges. Fine. Fine. Anyone do you have any doubt in this problem? Please type in the chat box. I hope by now you are familiar with the network action NLTK libraries. Anyone? Any difficulty? Fine, I believe no one has any doubt. Let's move on to the next question. So let's see the next question. You are analyzing a social network where individuals are represented as nodes and friendships are represented as edges. What would the most appropriate graph property to study and identify the influential individuals in the network? So let's see. Right. So let's see. Let's say we have a graph node like this. So what is graph? Graph is a So what is a graph? Graph is a collection of nodes and the edges that join them. Fine. So let's say these are the edges. These are the people whom this is a social network graph of a set of people, and let us define the edges between these people. So these edges show which person knows whom. Fine. So the link shows that A, let's say this is a person A. So let's say this is person A and this is person B. Then an edge between them tells us that the person A and person B are friends and they know each other. Fine. This is what an edge signifies in this graph. So now the question is, I want to identify the most influential person in this graph, in this social media graph. So what should be the property of these edges, these nodes that we should, of this graph basically, that we should look at to identify the most influential people? Can anyone tell me what should be the property? So a graph, what are the properties that a graph can have? A graph can have a set of nodes and edges connecting to them. Each node can have multiple edges coming to it or going out from it. So let's say we are talking about undirected graph. So each node can have multiple edges coming incident on it. And then we can always identify if the two nodes are connected or not by iterating through all the edges in the graph. So the one of the important factors is the degree of a node. What is the degree of a node? Degree of a node tells us the total number of the edges that are incident on that particular node. So now, can anyone tell me how to identify the most influential people in this network? And by most influential person, what we mean? A person who has the most influence on the larger group of people in present in the society. So let's say in this society we have total 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people. Out of 7 people, uh, the most influential person will be the person who knows maximum number of people in this graph, in this network. So he or she can communicate their ideas to that much number of people. So who will be the most influential people in this graph? Can anyone tell me among A, B, C, D, E, F, G? Who is the most influential person here? Anyone? D. So why? All the nodes are connected. So that's not true. G is not connected to D. So this does. So let's say A knows some node knows another node like this, and this node knows some other node like this. So it doesn't mean that this node knows this person knows this person. Fine. There is no transitivity here. So all the nodes are not connected to D. If this were true, then everyone would have been knowing everyone in this graph. Fine. Vijay, is this clear? So this is not true that everyone knows here. Fine. So yeah, someone is saying D has max degree. That's true. D has maximum number of friends in this graph, which is 4. for this case. Fine. So that's why he or she is the most influential person in this network of friends. So A has degree 1, G knows only one person, degree 1, F has degree 3, similarly B has degree 3, C has degree 1, and E has degree 1. So among these, the most influential person is D, who has the degree 4. That means he or she can influence 4 people in the entire society. Others can influence only other 3. Fine. So let's see what will be the correct answer. Now everyone knows the answer, I hope. What option is correct? Node degree, graph density, graph diameter, or edge width. What is the answer for this? Hello. Option A. Sure. So option A is correct. Node degree can help us identify the individual with maximum number of friends in the network, in the society. So anyone, do you have any doubts? Please type in the chat box. So I believe none of you have any doubts. So let's move on to the next question. So this question requires some context to experiment known as small world experiment. Small world experiment. It was conducted by Stanley Milgram and the participants, in which the participants were asked to send a letter to a target person through acquaintances. What was the average number of intermediaries required for the letters to reach the target? So let's see what is this experiment. This was basically an experiment to identify how far away, how disconnected are people from each other. So what did this experiment ask the users to do was, so let's say we have a set of researchers, those know each other, fine, those who know each other. Okay. Let's say we have some set of researchers, those who know each other. Fine. Then we have a society. Let's say this circle represents a big graph that contains a society. Fine. A lot number of people and multiple edges are among these connected. Then what was happened? A postcard was sent to these people in this set, the people of the society, with a mailing address of these people, and it asks them to forward that email to any one of these researchers whose name was on that postcard if they knew them. If they didn't knew them, they had to forward that postcard to the people they know in the society, who was most probably who they thought that who might be most probably knowing that those researchers. So in this way, and finally, it should read the postcard would reach the person who actually knows these one of these researchers, and then forward that those postcards to those people. Then this experiment was conducted, although a lot of people did not respond to this, but eventually they among the postcards that were received by the researchers, they observed that uh, among those, how many hops were required to reach that postcard. So what do I mean by hop? So let's say in the society we have person the A, then person B, who knows the researcher, this researcher. Fine. So this is person A, who does not know this researcher, but he knows that person B might be knowing this researcher. So they will forward this postcard to B, and B will forward that postcard to this particular researcher. Then the number of hops in which the postcard reached the researcher was, in this case, it was two. So one from A to B, and then second B to researcher. So the total number of hops was tracked, and eventually, in the end, they computed the total number of hops, and then they divided the total number of postcards that were received by the researchers divided by the total number of hops that these the total number of hops required to reach those letters. And they found out that this value was approximately 5.5 to 6. So they concluded that the average number of intermediaries required for the letters to reach the target was 6. This means, on an average, among all the postcards that the researchers received, 6 hops were required for each of these postcard transfers from person to person. So the question says, what is the average number of intermediaries required for the letters to reach the target? So the answer is 6. So basically, it essentially tells like out of 6 people in this world, every sixth people knows each other in this world, basically. So the answer is option C. So anyone, do you have any doubt? So anyone, do you have any doubt in this problem? So basically, it was a bit theoretical. When you look at the small world problem experiment, you will see what were the outcomes of these experiments, how the experiments were performed. So yeah, you can look at this diagram. So these are 4 researchers. So let's call them R1. This is R2. This is R3. And this is R4. Fine. And this is the subset. So basically, these 2 people, A and B, belong to this subset. Fine. So anyone, do you have any doubts? Please type in the chat box. So let's move on to the next question. I guess no one has any doubt. So given a file with edges of the graph and each line representing an edge in the format node 1 space node 2, the following code attempts to plot a graph based on the data given. But the code might contain some errors. Identify the line number corresponding to the error. In the absence of error, type your answer as minus. Everyone, let's try to understand the problem first. So we are given a text file that contains the edges of a graph. Fine. So let's consider a graph. Hmm. Let's consider this graph only that we were looking earlier. So what are the edges in this graph? A to B. So A to B. Then B to D to D. Then C to D. Then D to E, D to E. then D2F, D2F, then F2G, F2G. So this is the input for this graph. It gives us is it specifies the all the edges present in this graph. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 edges. So we are writing all the 6 edges in this graph like this. Then our program says we have to read the text file. Fine. Then we have to identify the nodes. And then we have to add these edges to a graph and then show it. Fine. So, and the problem is this program contains some issues. So let's try to identify those issues and see what can be done to resolve them. Fine. So the first line says import matplotlib networkx as annex. So basically we are importing the networkx library. Then import matplotlib.pyplot as plt. So we are importing the pyplot library that is useful for plotting. Then we are defining the load graph form file function file, and takes an input of an argument file, which is supposedly a string. Then we are creating an empty graph g equals to nx dot graph. Then we are reading the opening the text file name with the name stored in the variable file, which is the argument input argument to the function load graph form file. And then we are opening it in the reading mode. So we have specified R as the access specifier. And then for each line in the file, what we are doing, we are dividing the line by stripping it. So basically by stripping means, so this line contains these texts. So if there, so let's say we talk about first line, if it contains any leading or trailing spaces, it will remove them. Then what we are doing, we are stripping it into a by a space gap. So it will return into a list A comma B. So from each line, what we are getting here, are my screen changes visible to you guys? Am I audible? Great. So that's what I'm saying. So when you read one line in the file, we strip it, remove any leading or trailing spaces. Then we split it into words. So basically the first line contains A space B. So after this operation, we'll get a list A comma B. The list at 0 contains A and the list at index 1 contains the value B. Then these are the nodes list. Then we are defining node 1 as the nodes at 0, the list at index 0. So basically A in that case. Then we are defining node 2, which is basically nodes at 1. And then we are adding the node edge using graph g dot add edge node 1 comma node 2. Fine. So is my screen visible right now? Is the code visible to you guys? Huh. So are you understanding what I'm saying? So basically from each line in the text file, I am splitting it into a list containing the two vertices that have the edge between them. Then we are converting that list and using that list to extract the endpoints of that edge. And then we are adding that edge to the graph G. And finally, we are returning the graph G. Now, in line number 14, what we are doing? We are drawing annex.draw, then passing the graph variable that contains the graph information. Then we are adding other arguments that is with labels equals to true, font weight equals and plt.show. So basically, we are there showing the graph. So can anyone tell me what is the issue in this program? Hello. Can anyone identify what is the issue? So basically, annex.draw is a draw function. Network It is a draw function that takes a graph object as input and draws its nodes and edges. So can anyone tell me what is the issue in this program? So note that in this, the first argument has to be the graph that contains the information. Someone is asking why we are taking identity. So let's see. Mm, So yeah. In the program that I told you guys contains ABCD, but in this program they have specified that they should be integer. Then only it is possible. Fine. So, so let us look in the documentation. Um, Add edge. So let's see strings or numbers. So the nodes can be string or numbers, anything. So basically, yeah, it depends on the program. So for this program, they are considering that the nodes are 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's why it is typecasting it to integer. Fine. If you want, you can typecast. If you don't want, you can't. You don't need to. Fine. So now can anyone identify the issue in this program? Fine. So let me help you out. So in line number 14, you can see it nx.draw on some object graph. So can anyone tell me where this graph variable is defined? Can anyone identify in which line this graph variable is defined? So this is a function and that has been never called. And then we are calling a draw function on a variable graph. So is this correct? Is the graph variable even declared here? It is not even defined here. So that's why this is the problem in this program. No, it shouldn't be G because G is in the scope of this function. Look, it's a local variable in this function load graph from file. So basically you would have to create a new variable G that calls this function with the file name and then use that here. Fine. Fine. Anyone, do you have any doubts? So let's take a break for 5 minutes. So it's 7:06. So let's meet at 7:12. Fine. Till then, type your queries in the chat box. Hi everyone, welcome back. So let's move on to the next question. Anyone, if you have any queries, please type in the chat box. Am I audible? And is my screen visible? So using the let's move on to the next question. Using the ideas from area calculation discussed in the lecture, we are trying to estimate the area of a quarter circle embedded in a square. Identify the line number corresponding to the error, if any. In the absence of error, type your answer as -1. Fine. So you are given a square like this. You are given a quarter circle, and you want to compute the area of that quarter circle. In the class, you are discussed with an idea on how to do that. So the idea is basically this. So yeah. So let's say we have a quarter of a circle. So this is 1/4 of a circle, and we want to compute the area of this 1/4 of a circle. Fine. And let's say we don't know the formula to compute the area. So we need to compute the area of this region. So there is a method known as this is a random sampling method where what we do is, so we consider we approximate this uh, semicircle, a quarter of a circle as a square like this, such that the edges of the square are of length r. R is the radius of the radius of the circle. So basically, this is a square of length r by r. So let's make it a bit more beautiful thing. So we want to compute the area of this quarter of a circle, and we don't know the formula for that. Fine. So what we do, we approximate it using a square like this, a square that has the edge length equals to the radius of the circle. Fine. Then what we do, we randomly sample points in this square. Fine. And if if we randomly sample points, those lie in this square. Fine. So let's say these are some random points that we generate inside this square. Fine. And yeah. Let's take blue points as the points that lie outside the quarter circle and inside the square. Fine. So the idea is the area of this quarter of a circle can be approximated as blue points. So total number of blue points here. So basically blue points. So total blue points. Oh, sorry. Yeah, this is my mistake. So the area would be red, red points divided by total points that were sampled. Total points. Fine. So this is the idea. So basically, what is the area occupied? So this value multiplied by the area of the square, which is r squared, basically. So what is the idea? The idea is simple. So let's say 100, there are out of 200 points, there are 175 points that lie inside this. Out of 200 points inside this square, 175 points lie inside this quarter circle, and the remaining 25 lie outside it, the outside of the circle. Quarter circle. Then, what is the area of the quarter circle? That is basically the amount of points that are inside the circle divided by total number of points that were sampled in the square. So this is correct because when you consider actually what is the area ratio. So what is the ratio of area of this quarter circle and the area of square? That is basically the same value. The number of infinitesimal points that lie inside the quarter circle divided by total number of infinitesimal points that lie inside the square. So that would be the area ratio. And since we have only limited computational resources, we use finite number of points to approximate the area of this quarter circle. Fine. So let's see the question. So let us see the program. So what it is doing. So initially we are importing the random library. Then we are generating 10,000 points, and we are defining the radius to be 1. Then we are defining a function is inside quarter circle to check if the generated sampled point is inside the quarter circle. It takes the xy coordinate of that circle and the radius of the quarter circle, and then checks if x squared plus y squared is less than equals to radius squared and x is positive. So basically what it is doing. So let's see. So let us say, let us say, so let's say this is our xy plane, fine, and we are talking about uh, quarter circle in the first quadrant. So basically it looks like this. Fine. The quarter circle looks like this. Okay. Then how to check if let's say this is the radius. So basically this is radius. So this point is r comma 0, and then this point is basically 0 comma r. Okay. So now let's say we are and this is the square in which we are sampling the total points. Fine. So this point is basically r comma r, and this is our origin 0 comma 0. Okay. Now let us we have sampled any points in the xy plane. Then how to check in this basically in this squared region. So this is 0 to 1. X value lies from 0 to 1 and y value lies from 0 to 1. Then, uh, uh, what is the condition that that point lies inside the circle? So then, what is the condition? We all know that the analytical equation to the circle is basically x squared for every point that lies on the perimeter of the circumference of the circle will follow satisfy this equation. X square plus y square equals to r square. Fine. This is the analytical equation of a square. Now, all the points that lie on this perimeter circumference of this circle that will they will satisfy this equation. The points that lie inside the circle will satisfy this inequality. So it will be less than r square. The points which are greater than r square, whose coordinate squares values are greater than square, are outside value. So they are outside the. So they are basically outside the hemisphere. Now there is another constraint. X should be greater than zero because y is equal to zero. Then this will give us n equals to zero. Then this will give us an idea whether a given point lies in this quarter of circle or not. Fine. So this is what this function is doing. It is basically checking if x coordinate of the point squared plus y coordinate of the point squared is less than equals to radius squared, and x is positive as 0 plus positive and y is 0 and positive. Then it is inside the circle, otherwise return false. Then we can see it says Monte Carlo simulation. So basically this method is also known as Monte Carlo method. So Monte Carlo simulation for area estimation of a quarter circle. So we have a function def estimate area of a quarter circle. We are passing total number of points that are to be sampled inside the square, and then the radius of the quarter circle. What is our aim? Our aim is to generate as many points as possible. And according to this program, total number of num points, the points that are passed to the function in the argument num points, those many points have to be passed, has to be generated inside the square. So, and we have to count the number of points that lie inside the quarter circle within that square. So we are declaring a variable inside points that counts that number, and it is initialized to zero. Then for underscore in range number of points. So basically for every point, so basically what does this loop do? It learns the loop from 0 to total number of points. We are generating the x coordinate, and we already know x coordinate should lie between 0 to radius of that square of that quarter circle. So x equals to random dot inform 0 comma radius. So we are randomly generating number using the uniform probability distribution, and we are generating a value between 0 to radius. Similarly for y, we are generating another random value between 0 to radius, and this value is taken from uniform distribution. Then we are checking if inside quarter circle x comma y and given radius. If that generated point is inside the quarter circle, inside we have to increment the total number of inside points. So inside points plus equals to 1. Then we define the variable area ratio equals to inside points divided by number of points, and estimated area equals to area ratio into radius squared. So estimated areas was basically the area of the square multiplied by the area ratio. So area of the square is radius squared. So basically this line says estimated area is area ratio multiplied by radius squared, and then we have to return the estimated area. So everyone, do you understand this program? So basically, first I gave you an uh, overview of the program problem, how to solve. Then I gave the solution, how to solve this problem, and then I we are looking at this piece of code that actually implements that logic. So everyone, is this clear? Everything is clear here regarding Monte Carlo simulation. Hello, am I audible? Please type in the chat box. Yeah. So do you understand the program? Do you understand the problem that we are trying to solve? And Do you understand the solution? How it is solved? Fine. I hope none of you have any doubts. So the problem says we have to identify the line number that contains some errors, and there is no line that contains any error. So yeah, we have to. The answer is -1 here. Fine. So there are no problem, no bugs in this program. So let's move on to the next question. So select the correct statements regarding to the area calculation using the method discussed in the lecture. So basically the same method that we saw in the previous program. The main advantage of the method is that it can handle area correction for calculation even for irregular shapes. So this is true given that you are able to identify whether a point lies inside the irregular shape or not. Then the main advantage of the method is that it is computationally efficient for all scenarios. It basically depends because and it depends on whether if the analytical equation to the given scenario, given shape is given or not. And then increasing the number of random points reduces the impact of random variations and produces more stable and accurate estimate of area. That's true. If you use only one point, you will get very highly inaccurate result. If you as you increase the number of points, the solution will converge and it will be more stable. Increasing the number of random points improves the accuracy of estimates at converges to the average value of the true value according to the law of large numbers. So that's true. If you take large numbers and average them, the solution is close to the correct solution. Fine. Anyone? Do you have any doubts? So basically, the idea is it can handle area correction even for irregular shapes, given that the analytical equation of irregular shapes should be known, or a way there should be a method in which through which you can identify whether a point lies inside the irregular shape or not. It can be get much tricky and less computationally efficient if the analytical equation is very difficult, very complex. Then increasing the number of random points reduces to the impact of random variations and provides a more stable and accurate estimate of area. Yeah, that's true. And as you increase the number of points, it averages out to the correct area of the quarter of the circle. Fine. Anyone, do you have any doubts? Please type in the chat box. Anyone, please type in the chat box if you have any queries. Fine. So let's move on to the next question. So select the correct statement regarding the PIL library. So option A, PIL stands for Python Image Library. That's true. Option B, Pillow is the active successor of PIL. So that's true. Pillow is a successor of PIL. Image.open is used to open images in PIL. So that is also true. So basically all the options are true. Fine. Anyone, do you have any doubts? So these are all basic problems related to the topics that were covered in your lectures. So now I have some programming problems that I will solve one of these programming problems for today, and then you guys can ask any queries if you have. So anyone, if you have any queries, please type in the chat box. Otherwise, I can proceed with this problem. Hello, am I audible? Great, fine. So let's so fine. Everyone, did you understand this problem of balanced and unbalanced strings? So do you have any doubt? So so I mean, someone is typing no. So are you confused about what are balanced and not balanced strings for this program? So basically, these are strings consisting of only six, okay, six characters, and yeah. So this is a balanced string. So let's try to design a program that will solve this problem. So let's say we are given a string. So it contains these brackets like this, and we have to identify if it is a balanced string or not. And how to solve this problem? So let's say we create a list. Okay. So we create a list like this, and we start appending the strings if any one of these characters appear. The opening square bracket, opening curly bracket, or opening small bracket. So if in any of these characters appear, we simply append these to this string. So let's append them. So, and by appending, what I mean, I am adding the elements at the end of the list. Okay. So initially the list was empty. Now we are appending the start opening curly bracket here. Then we are getting an opening square bracket. So we should append it to the list at the last. So square bracket comes here. Then we are getting the opening small bracket, so we should append it to the list at the last. So we have this small bracket. Then, whenever we see any of these characters, the closing square bracket, the closing curly bracket, or the closing small bracket, then what we do? We need to check if there was a opening, there was some opening respective bracket or not. So let's say here we are observing that we are at this closing small bracket. So what would we check? We would check whether in this string, the last character that we appended to the list was the opening small bracket or not. If that is true, then only the string can be valid. So here we check. So yeah, so this is the closing and this is the opening, and we can see, yeah, this is the last character. So what we do? We remove this last character from this list and we ignore this character now. Then we go to the next character, we get a closing square bracket. So again, what we do, we check what is the character present in this list at the last. So this is the opening square bracket, and now we are closing it. So yeah, this is also balanced. And finally, we have this last closing curly bracket. Then what we do, we check the last value present in this list, and this is, yeah, this is opening. So we simply remove it. If at the end this list contains blank elements, no elements, then this means all lists are prospective balance. So let's say we had some input that looked like this. So opening is, then this closing, then another a square opening, square closing, and then a curly here. Right. So let's start appending the characters into this blank list. So first we get an opening curly bracket. So what we do, we append to the list. Then we get a closing small bracket. So when we get any input from this group, what we do, we check for the last entry that was appended to the list. If that was the corresponding opening one, then it is correct. Otherwise, the list cannot be balanced. So you can see for this, we have no opening small bracket. So the list is not balanced. So this answer is incorrect, whereas this was correct. So this was balanced. Fine, everyone. Did you get the logic? Can we proceed to the program? Anyone? Do you have any doubts? Hello, am I audible? Am I audible? Hello. Yeah. So is the logic clear? How would you identify whether a given list is a given set of string, given as text or yeah. So given text is balanced or not? Were you able to understand the logic? Can we proceed? Anyone? So do you want me to explain the logic again? Hello. So basically the logic is simple. You create a blank list and you start iterating by character in the list from the beginning. If you get any of these characters that are opening braces from this group, you append them to the last of the list. If you get any of the closing brackets, then what you do? You check if the last element that was appended to this list was the corresponding opening bracket or not. If it is or not, then the list was not is cannot be a balanced list, balanced string. So do you get the logic, everyone? So basically for this example, you can see we are opening a curly bracket, then a square bracket, then a small bracket. And then we get the first closing bracket and it is basically corresponding to the opening. So there is an opening for this, the nearest opening. So that's why this is balanced. Then again, for this square bracket, you can find this opening here. And then finally for the curly, you can find the opening here. So this is a balance. Whereas in this program, you can see we have a opening curly, then closing small, and there is no opening small bracket here. So it is not a balanced list, balanced string. Fine. Should we proceed to the program? Okay, I guess no one has any doubt. So I should probably give the program to you guys. So let's call it balanced string.py. Fine. Let me zoom in a bit. So let's define a function is balance, and let's take in a text. Then what we do within the function, what we do, we clear a blank list. So let's say we call this stack and we create a blank list. Now what we do for each character in text, for each character in the string text, if char in, if the char is in these opening ones, this or this, then what we have to do? We have to stack dot append char. Fine. So append basically adds the text into the last of the string. Else, now what we have to do? If the input at if stack is empty. So if you are getting an empty list and it contains a closing bracket, then this means it is not balanced. So if this is 0, then what is happening? So return false. Fine. Else, the stack contains some character, so there is a possibility that character might be the opening bracket for the following closing bracket. So if stack at last, the last value can be it can be accessed using an index -1 equals to char. If this is the case, then what we have to do? Stack dot pop -1. That's it. Fine. If that is not true, then what is happening? Then definitely it is not balanced. So we return false. And finally, if we have done this, and then if len of stack is 0, then we have iterated throughout all the characters in the list, and we are sure that it is a balanced. Else, what we do? Return false. So this is the program. So let's go to hmm, so let's open up our file. So it is from balanced string. What we have to import? We have to import the function is balanced. Fine. And let's pass some strings and see what is happening. Is balanced, and let's pass some string. So this is a very simple. So you can see there were total three. It- 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Oh, so there is some bug in our program. If there is an opening, stack that happened. So I think stack.pop is incorrect. So txt. Oh, there is no pop. Acha. So we have a list. Sorry. We need to have a list to use the pop function. Yeah. So we have a txt 1, 2, 3, 4. txt dot pop at -1. Let's see what it does. It pops the last value. Yeah. So let's see what is the mistake in our program. For character in text, what we are doing, we are declaring a stack, and then if character is opening one, then we are appending to the stack. If length of the stack is 0 and it is a closing one, then return false. If stack at last character is character, it should pop the last character, else return false. So let us see what is the mistake that we are doing here. Let's print stack array in every iteration. So it was opening, 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 opening. Okay. Oh, yeah, there's a mistake. Sorry. So stack at minus on the last entry has not to be equal to character. It has to be the corresponding entry, corresponding closing bracket. So let's create a dictionary mapping. So basically, uh, let's create pair of brackets. Let's create a dictionary, and this dictionary contains the opening and the closing ones. A mapping between opening and closing values. So for this, we have this, and finally for this, we have this. Fine. So this is a pair containing all the brackets, key value pairs. Now, if stack at -1 equals to pair brackets at char. So if it is a closing one, if the char is closing one. So yeah, I have to just replace this with stack at -1. And this has to be char. And this should work. Now you can say, see, it is returning true for this input. Right. So this is how you solve this problem. Right. So let's remove one of these and it says it's false. Let's put this. This is false. Let's again remove one of these and this is true. So this works. Everyone, do you have any doubts? So this was it for today's session. So thank you all. So it's already 8. So let's meet next week. If you have any queries, let's discuss them in the next session.